What's good, everybody? Welcome back to High Guard MMA. Today, I'll be breaking down UFC Fight Night Perth, Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates. This card is absolutely stacked. Bunch of fire fights. Let's get right into it. All right, let's get right into the prelims to kick off the night. We have a lightweight fight between Cody Steele versus Donmar Fan. Cody Steele is 7-1 overall, 0-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut to Rongju. Very savvy vet. Not a bad guy to lose to. But Donmar Fan is 9-2. 1-0 in the UFC. He won his debut over Sang-Uk Kim. Shout out to him for doing that. But Cody Steele, he's very aggressive. He likes to get in your face, push the pace. He's off a loss, so he's definitely out to prove something. Especially kicking off the card too. Definitely set off some fireworks to kick off the card. Look for him to put hands and feet on Fan early. Honestly, Fan though he's a little more technical. He picks his shots. I'm assuming he won't like the pace of that Cody Steele brings. I think he's going to try to look to get it to the ground, and maybe if he gets there, he'll be okay. But don't want to spend too much time on this one. My pick right here, I got Cody Steele by TKO. I think he overwhelms Fan, gets him out of there early, and he gets his first win in the UFC. Moving on to a welterweight fight between Jonathan Mikhailov versus Temba Garimbo. Jonathan Mikhailov is 9-1. 2-0 in the UFC. He's got a decision win over Kevin Jousset and a submission win over Oban Elliott. Temba Garimbo is 14-6, 4-3 in the UFC. He's got 2 losses in a row right now. He lost a decision to Jeremiah Wells, and then he got submitted by Vicente Luque. So, tough. Both guys are very strong on the ground. I bet they're going to look to grapple, control, submit you. Garimbo is a better wrestler than Mikhailov, but Mikhailov is a better grappler, if that makes sense. Garimbo's just got a really strong wrestling base. I don't know if we'll get two grapplers trying to kickbox, or we'll see if these guys are just trying to have a hug fest and see, who's better on the ground. I don't know, right? But my pick here, I'm going Mikhailov by submission. I see him being too much for Garimbo. He's a younger guy. Even if Garimbo takes him down, I think Mikhailov is still a submission threat on the ground. But if Garimbo can get control and just hold him, then maybe he'll get away to win this fight. But I got Jonathan Mikhailov by submission. Moving on to a middleweight bout between Wes Schultz and Ben Johnston. Wes Schultz is 8-3 overall, 0-1 in the UFC. He got KO'd by Damian Pinais in the first round in his debut in February. So that's kind of rough, but he's got something to prove here. Ben Johnston is 5-1 overall. This is his UFC debut. He's got all finishes in the Australian MMA scene, mostly by submission. Schultz is tough. He's durable. He's going to look to make it ugly, push the pace. He's got a good wrestling base. He'll look to use it and make Johnston work. Johnston has a good technical striking, looks to break guys down with volume. And then he looks to grapple and submit you. So he looks to break you down, take you down, submit you. He's 35 and he's making his debut, which is I'm a little iffy on that. I think 35 and making your UFC debut is a little, that's kind of a red flag to me, honestly. I was going with Johnston based on what I was seeing on his his regional fights before he got to the UFC, but yeah, just based on him being 35 and not having that many professional fights under his belt, I'm going I'm going Schultz by decision. I see him looking to control this fight against the fence, even take Johnston down and control him there. He just needs to be careful with the submissions from Johnston, but I got Schultz by decision. I don't think this is going to be very exciting, but I could be wrong. We'll see. Moving on to a fight that I'm actually a big fan of. I had this one circled for sure. Colby Thickness versus Vince Morales. Colby Thickness is 8-1 overall, 1-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut to Alexandre Tempuria by decision. It's Ilya Topuria's brother. And then he won a decision over Josias Musasa. Don't know too much about that guy, so can't really say too much about that win. Vince Morales, unfortunately, when I went to look at his stats, none of it was pulling up here, but I know he's been in the UFC for a while. He's a vet. He's a tough guy. Colby Thickness is young. He trains with Volkanovski, and I believe the coach is Joe Lopez. He's very fast, technical, clean boxing, good body work, good defensive wrestling, a lot of volume. I'm a big fan of Colby Thickness. I think this is a vet test. You give him somebody who's been around a while, who's fought a bunch of guys in the UFC, out of the UFC. This is definitely a good fight for him. Vince Morales, he's been in and out of the UFC, like I said, over the past few years. He's very experienced, though. He's very tough, big time pressure boxer. He's very durable. He hasn't looked great in his last few fights, though. Not sure if he'll be able to keep it up with the younger guy here. He's 35 to Colby Thickness. I believe he's 25, 26. So, that's, like I said, vet test, right? So my pick here, I'm going Colby Thickness by decision. I think Morales is too tough to get finished still, even though he's 35. But I think Colby is going to win by being cleaner, sharper, and just having more volume, like I said. But I will say, if Colby Thickness somehow loses this fight, major red flag, major red flag. Because he's a guy that I think could, compete. I don't want to say necessarily for a title, not yet, obviously, but I think he could be a guy that could be in the top 15 pretty soon. Moving on to a middleweight bout, we have another test on our hands here, folks. We have the GM3 test. We have Jacob Malkoun versus Gerald Meerschaert. Jacob Malkoun is 9-3 overall, 5-3 in the UFC. He TKO'd Andre Petroski, and then he got a decision win over Torres Finney. I believe it was in January. And then Gerald Meerschaert, 37-21 overall, 12-13 in the UFC. He's currently on a 4-fight losing streak. He got submitted by RDR, lost the decision to Brad Tavares, got TKO'd by Mikhail Olajacek, and then he got submitted by Kyle Dawkins. Gerald Meerschaert, man. Jacob Malkoun, very underrated in general, I think. I think his wrestling's very good. He's got good top pressure, and very good control. He doesn't take very many chances. He tends to be a little too patient, I would say. Tends to play a little too safe. However, with this fight, I think he does need to be a little safer on the ground, I would say, and not let GM3 lull him into getting submitted. Gerald Meerschaert, on the other hand, my boy GM3, 38 years old, almost 60 pro fights, 29 career wins by submission. He's taken a lot of damage, especially recently. Still very dangerous, though, in my opinion, especially against a guy like Malkoun who doesn't necessarily have the experience that he does. But we'll see, right? My pick here, I'm going Jacob Malkoun by decision. He just can't make silly mistakes. He just needs to stay on top, control GM3. I don't necessarily see him getting a KO here. It's very possible. I mean, I could be completely wrong and he could just flatline GM3 in the first round, right? But I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, and I don't necessarily see GM3 doing a whole lot other than trying to survive. So I got Jacob Malkoun by decision. All right, and we're going to be moving on to a light heavyweight fight between Junior Tafa and Kevin Christian. Junior Tafa is 6-5 overall, 2-5 in the UFC, former heavyweight. Since he's moved down to 205, he's lost 2 in a row. He got submitted by Tuco Tucos and Billy Elicana. Kevin Christian is 9-3 overall, 0-1 in the UFC. He also got submitted by Billy Elicana in his debut in November. Junior Tafa, he's fighting at the crib, man. He needs a win or he'll likely get cut because he's lost I don't know how many in a row. And I mean, not a bunch of fights in a row, but he's just another one of those heavyweight blobs that's out there just to be out there. So look for Tafa to come out hot. Look for an early KO from him. If he doesn't get a KO early, he'll likely gas out, as his ground game, his grappling, not very good. So moving on to Kevin Christian, though. He's huge. Pause. 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. Very rangy striker. Very good in the clinch. Sneaky good grappling. Real submission threat. He's very hittable, though. He's 6'7", got his chin up in the air. I could see Junior Tafa just, but we'll see. If he fights smart and doesn't get his block knocked off, he should win this fight fairly easy. My pick here, I'm going Kevin Christian by submission, honestly, because, like I said, Junior Tafa's ground game is a massive red flag, always has been. And if this goes past the first round, it's very likely that Kevin Christian gets the job done, especially by submission. So look for Kevin Christian to get a submission here on Junior Tafa, and Junior Tafa, best of luck to you, brother. All right, we're moving on to the featured prelim. It's got fight of the night potential written all over it. It's a middleweight bout between Cam Ralston and Robert Brishek. Cam Ralston is 14-3, 2-0 in the UFC. He's got a TKO over Andre Petroski and Cody Brundage. I believe Cody Brundage fight, that was in January. Robert Brycek, he's 18-6, 1-1 in the UFC. He lost the decision to Iho Potieria, who's, people walk all over that guy. So I don't know. And then he got a TKO over Brad Tavares in September. So that's cool. Decent win. Cam Ralston, he's very good all around. He's a CKB guy, City Kickboxing. Trains with Adesanya, all those guys, right? Overall in his career, he's got 6 KOs, 7 submissions, so he's pretty good all around. He manages the distance well. He picks his shots, very patient. He knows when to use his grappling. He can be a little too patient at times. I said that about Jacob Malkoun as well, but Cam Ralston is one of those guys that's very, very technical and very, mindful when he fights, right? But it can be, I don't want to say it can be the death of him sometimes, but it can lead to a not so exciting performance, right? But Robert Brycek is very dangerous with the hands, has serious one-punch knockout power. He's got 12 KOs overall in his career. 10 of them are in the first round. He's compact, really strong, very aggressive in the pocket, likes to get up close and personal with you. Likes to get, in the pocket, likes to box, likes to hit you hard. This could potentially be a problem for Cam Ralston if he gets caught early in a firefight, which I don't think is in Cam Ralston's best interest, is to get in a firefight with this gentleman. But we'll see. I think the longer the fight goes, the better it is for Cam Ralston, because like I said, this guy Robert Brycek, he likes to start off hot and early. He likes to get things done in the first round. So we'll see, right? But my pick here, I'm going Cam Ralston by TKO. I think he has more ways to win. He's got the momentum coming into this fight. He's fighting at home too. I think he's going to fight patient, pick this guy apart, and get the job done in the second or third round. I don't think he gets it done in the first round. I think he starts off downloading information a little bit and then slowly picks him apart and TKOs him. Moving on to the main card, let's start off with a big boy banger. We got Tai Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland. Tai Tuivasa's 14-9 overall, 8-9 in the UFC. He hasn't won since 2022. He TKO'd Derek Lewis. Right now he's on a 6-fight losing streak. I had to double check this when I was doing my research on Tai Tuivasa. I was like, man, 6 in a row is fucking crazy. But it went just like this: TKO'd by Cyril Gane, TKO'd by Sergey Pavlovich, submitted by Alexander Volkov, submitted by Marcin Tybura, decision to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's no longer in the UFC, and then a decision loss to Towson Teixeira. Holy shit. I don't know anybody that's lost that many fights in a row and stuck around besides Tony Ferguson. And yeah. Louis Sutherland, though, the Vanilla Gorilla, he's 10-5 overall, 0-2 in the UFC. He got submitted by Walter Walker via heel hook in his debut. And then he got TKO'd by Brando Pericic, who's also on this card, and that was in March. That was like a month ago. So he's stepping in on short notice, though. I think it was a week's notice, 8 days notice, something like that. Tai Tuivasa was supposed to fight Sean Sharaf, I believe, but he broke his nose, something like that. But speaking of Tai Tuivasa, he needs a win bad. He's fighting at the crib. He's a fan favorite. This is honestly as desperate as I've seen the UFC to just spoon feed somebody a win, especially at home. Tai needs to go out there, swing for the fences, and just put this fucking guy out. Simple as that. There's not a whole lot to it other than go out there and just bang. We need to see the banger from West Sydney one more time, because I think regardless of the outcome of this, I think Tai should probably be done. He's taken a lot of damage, and he's just not that many fights, but he's just been hit a lot, and I don't want to see him continue this streak of losing. But Louis Sutherland, is not as good as he was on the regional scene, in my opinion, because he's not sauced up anymore. I saw some pictures and videos of this guy on the regional scene, and he looked fucking insane. Traps up to his fucking ears. It was crazy. Now he, looks like a UFC heavyweight. But he's still got heavy hands, big power. He's stepping in on 8 days' notice, like I said. Game plan has to be land first, right? There's not a whole lot of game planning in a fight like this when two guys are just going to go out there and just swing for the fences, right? If this fight, whoever lands first is probably going to win. Land big first, is probably going to win. But like I said, I feel like the UFC are trying really hard here to hand Tai Tuivasa a win, and I'm not mad at it. I'm a fan of Bam Bam, and I would love to see him win here. So with that being said, I'm going Tai Tuivasa by KO. There's no way this fight leaves the first round. Look for both guys to come out swinging, kick off the main card. This is absolutely sick. Okay, moving on to another big boy fight. We got another set of heavyweights here. We got Shamil Gaziev versus Brando Pericic. Shamil Gaziev is 14-2 overall, 3-2 in the UFC. He's got a KO win over Thomas Peterson and a KO loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta. That was in November. Brando Pericic is 6-1 overall, 2-0 in the UFC. He's got TKOs over Elisha Ellison and Louis Sutherland in March. Shamil Gaziev is a former regional monster. He is also not sauced up anymore, and now he is a UFC blobby heavyweight. He's a fan favorite, though. He's fun to watch. Big motherfucker. He's like 6'5", just a big son of a bitch. He likes to push the pace, pressure guys. He mixes in his wrestling well, I believe. And in my opinion, he's got some of the best control in heavyweight, which says a lot about the state of the heavyweight at the UFC. That's not really saying much. His cardio has always been a red flag, though, like most heavyweights is. If he doesn't get the job early, though, I think he's going to gas out like he did against Waldo Cortez Acosta and get knocked out again. Perich, though, his last 2 fights ended in under 2 minutes. He likes to push the pace, gets the fight over with. You don't get paid by the hour in these fights, right? So go in there and get it over with. He's got big power, good boxing in the pocket. He also trains at CKB, City Kickboxing. His gas tank has yet to been tested, obviously, like I said, especially in the UFC, because his 2 fights that he had ended in under 2 minutes. So we don't really know what he's like after 2 minutes, right? So you never know. I got Brando Perich by TKO here. I think he's going to be too much for Gaziev early on and just get him out of there, put him down, put him out. Unless Gaziev gets a hold of him and just wrestles him and tries to control him. But I think these guys are going to try to be exciting, especially following the Tai Tuivasa fight. These guys are going to go out there and bang. But I got Brando, my guy Brando Perich by TKO. Let's go. Moving on to going from heavyweights to the little guys. We got flyweights. We got Tim Elliott versus Steve Ershag. Tim Elliott is 21-13-1. He's 10-11 in the UFC. He's got 2 wins in a row right now. Good for him. He's coming off a submission win over Samudarji, and he got a submission win over Kai Asakura in August, I believe. And then Steve Ershag, though, man, 13-4 overall. 4-3 in the UFC. He's lost 3 in a row. He lost to Pantoja by decision. He got KO'd by Kai Kara France. Then he lost to Brandon Moreno, by decision. And then he actually won in August against Ode Osborne via decision. So Steve Ershag is back in the winning column, right? But Tim Elliott, 39 years old, very unique style that works for him. He's very unorthodox, very awkward. He defends well. He's got great scrambles, good wrestling. He knows how to make it funky and awkward, though. He likes to make things tricky, make it ugly. And I think he's got to make it ugly and weird to beat Steve Ershag here. Steve Ershag is a crisp boxer. Kind of slick on the ground, though, honestly, definitely better on the feet than Tim Elliott. He got rushed, I think, when he first got in the UFC because he got a couple, he got 1 or 2 decent wins, and then they rushed him to a title fight, and then it just was from there. But like I say, he's back in the win column with that win over Ode Osborne. I think he needs to defend takedowns here and just counterbox very well. He needs to stay on his jab, pick his shots well. He can't get caught up in the weirdness that is Tim Elliott, right? Tim Elliott, like I said, he makes it weird, makes it awkward, makes it ugly. Steve Ershag can't get into all that. Stay technical, do your thing, be Steve Ershag, do what got you there, right? Don't start doing all this weird shit. Don't fall into the Tim Elliott trap. I got Steve Ershag by decision. I think he just fights smart here, defends takedowns. I think he just pieces up Tim Elliott over the course of 15 minutes. And I think the win should be very convincing. Good 29-28, maybe 30-27, but we'll see, right? All right, guys, we're moving on to the co-main event. We got Beneil Dariush versus Quillan Salkild. Beneil Dariush is 23-7-1, 17-7-1 in the UFC. He's coming off a decision win over Moicano. And he got TKO'd by Benoit Saint Denis late 2025. Quillan Salkild, on the other hand, he's 11-1, 4-0 in the UFC. He's got most recently a KO win over Nasrat Hapcrast, head kick KO, and then he submitted Jamie Malarkey in January of this year. Beneil Dariush has an elite resume, though. He's still very dangerous in the grappling department. I think he's dangerous overall, honestly. He's got underrated boxing as well. He's good in transitions. He's one of the more tactical, well-rounded guys at 155, in my opinion. Assuming he will use his boxing to set up to grapple here, I think he's going to try to stay on the feet for a little bit and then try to look to take Salkiel down and get this fight to the ground and control him. But moving on to, honestly, one of my favorite fighters right now, Quillen Salkiel. He's fighting at home. He's very young, very fast, very athletic, very sharp, good anti-wrestling, sneaky good on the ground as well. Like I said, he got a submission over Jamie Malarkey. And he's got a major step up in competition ahead of him here, though, with Beneil Dariush. I think this fight is going to really show if he belongs in that upper echelon of elite guys at 155. I think he needs to stay at range and just piece Beneil Dariush up on the feet. I think he should avoid being on the ground, even though, like I said, he's got decent jiu-jitsu. He's good on the ground, but I just think Dariush, like I said, is way more experienced there. He loves to grapple. He's a real strong grappler, heavy wrestling. So I think Quillen should avoid that at all cost, in my opinion. My pick here, I'm going Quillen Salkiel by TKO. It's a very popular pick, obviously, but I think the speed, the athleticism, sharp striking is going to be way too much for Beneil Dariush at this stage of his career, and I think he's going to get him out of there possibly in spectacular fashion yet again. If this was like 2020, 2021, even 2022 shit, I would honestly say Dariush wins this easily, but I don't think so. I think regardless of the outcome, especially if there's a KO, I think Dariush, I'd like to see him hang it up as well. But we'll see, right? But like I said, Quillen Salkiel by TKO. I don't know if it'll be the first round. I would say, if I had to be super specific about it, I'll say mid to late second round. TKO. Maybe hit him with a 1-2 and then another head kick or a flying knee. All right, ladies and gents, we got the big one, the main event. Two welterweights here. We got Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates. Jack Della Maddalena is 18-3 overall, 8-1 in the UFC. He lost his title to Islam in his last fight in November, and then he won the belt off Bilal Muhammad before that in May of last year as well. Carlos Prates, on the other hand, is 23-7, 6-1 in the UFC. He's coming off back-to-back KOs over Leon Edwards in November and Jeff Neal in August. His only loss was a decision to Ian Gary in April of last year as well. So he fought 3 times last year. Let's get into it though. Let's start off with JDM. JDM is a great boxer, excellent combos, good body work. He's looking to rebound big at home. Especially coming off that disappointing loss to Islam. If anybody saw that fight, I'd never seen anybody with that facial expression in a fight before. Maybe I'll put it up right here. We'll see. But, man, he was in there, looked just distraught. He was crying, he didn't know what to do. Islam was just holding him on the ground, and he couldn't do shit about it. It was very disappointing to watch. Very boring to watch, if I might add. But, I don't want any fan bases getting mad at me for that, but it was boring. It was very boring. But JDM's built to go 5 rounds. Look for him to make a statement here, honestly. He needs to be sharp, keep his guard up, needs to box. Needs to mix it up with the body shots, keep his combos tight. He needs Carlos Prates to respect him early on. Because if you see Carlos Prates fight, he doesn't respect anybody when the fight starts. He goes in there and goes right at you, So, moving on to Carlos Prates, he's very dangerous. He's violent. He's one of the most exciting guys in all of MMA right now, if I'm being honest. Crazy knockouts, and the personality is just awesome. He's smoking cigarettes, he parties, he drinks, and he's going out there and fucking flatlining everybody's favorite fighters, which is crazy. He's very, very powerful, and he's a sniper too. He's very accurate. He hits like a fucking truck. If he picks up momentum early, it could get very ugly. I think he needs to dictate the pace in order to win this fight. I think he needs to keep Jack Della Maddalena backing up the entire time, because I just think that's where Carlos Prates is better, when he's pressuring people, making them back up, when he's on the lead foot. I think he needs to also mix in the leg kicks, obviously. He's got sneaky good leg kicks. Sneaky in the kicks a lot, honestly, because I don't think Jack Della Maddalena is going to be able to combat, the crazy handwork, in addition to the leg kicks and the body kicks and the knees and the elbows, and there's just a lot going on, right? But I think, if he does all that and keeps the pressure on, he's got a very good chance to finish JDM here. But I think the biggest factor in this fight is the fact that it's a 5-round fight, obviously, with it being a main event. But we saw Carlos Prates slow down when he fought 5 rounds against Ian Gary. I believe that's the only time he's been a main event and been 5 rounds. And we saw Ian Gary control him, the majority of that fight until the very end, obviously, when it got a little spooky. But I think JDM has more experience over 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds with Bilal Muhammad. He went 5 rounds with Islam Makhachev. And I think his style is built to get better as the fight goes on, right? I don't want to say he starts off slow, but he builds momentum as the fight continues, right? With volume, with pressure, all that, right? But we haven't seen the same from Carlos Prates, right? We haven't seen him, be in your face for 25 minutes. We've only seen him for 25 minutes once, and it was a little spooky, right? But I think Carlos Prates is known for getting KOs inside the distance. Everybody knows that, right? So, excuse me, we'll see. My final thoughts, though, on this before I give my prediction. If it goes the distance, which it probably won't, I think Jack Della Maddalena will win a decision because, like I said, he's got that experience. He's been in there with guys that, with the likes of Bilal Muhammad, Islam Makhachev. So he's got, that's 50 minutes of fighting right there, right? But I think if there's a firefight early, which I expect there to be, especially with Carlos Prates walking in here, I think he's going to walk away with a finish. Carlos Prates, is going to put the pressure on. Strikes are going to add up. He's going to hurt him to the body, to the head, to the leg, everything, right? With all that being said, my pick here, I got Carlos Prates by TKO. I think the pressure, the kicks, and the power is just going to be way too much for JDM, especially early on. If Carlos Prates comes out hot, putting the pressure on, and with the knees and the leg kicks and the elbows, I think all that, mixing it all in, is going to be too much for Jack Della Maddalena, and he's gonna maybe look to wrestle, right? But I don't think that's gonna happen. I got Carlos Prates getting a TKO before the 4th round is over. Boom. Well, all right, folks, that'll do it. That is my breakdown of this card. I will be honestly watching these fights live Saturday morning because they'll be on at 4 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, which is where I'm at. So stay tuned to my TikTok. I will be going live on TikTok during these fights, and I'll be live streaming, not necessarily live streaming the fights, but live streaming me watching the fights. So tune into that, and I will have a recap video for this card as well. As soon as the fights are over, honestly, I'll probably have the video out Saturday night or Sunday morning. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, High Guard MMA, we out.